All right, good day, hi, and welcome. Okay, I know in my last video I said that was all the mumble and jumbling I was going to do for today, but there was one problem. I still have to make one more mumble and jumbling video. Right. Don't let your ADD get the best of you. Hang on. Sure. It's kind of damp in here, so turn off the heat a little bit. Little bit. Okay, World War III update. Okay, today, guys, this is covering day 11, so today is the 12th day, so we are now at the the second 12-day war. No end in sight. Trump said, yeah, this one's going to be wrapped up quick. I think, like, the Trump administration must be in full fucking panic because, like, like, they get these grandiose ideas. Okay, they have this American exceptionalism thing, and if you don't understand what a like grand manifest destiny and like American exceptionalism, what the argument is about that is that it's the idea of policing the world and stuff like that, but it's also this, like when he talks about like hemispherical influence, right? That we can control everything. It's basically attributing more value to the United States than it actually can accomplish, right? Yes, the United States still has the biggest economy in the world, but it's falling fast, really fast. Now, its saving grace is the fact that it has so far to go. But you have Trump out there telling people, that, okay, yeah, we need your oil reserves, so to keep the oil prices from skyrocketing too much for oil. Like everybody's like, oh, we're gonna have $100 barrel of oil, $150 barrel of oil. It's already like hit like 130. Like we're gonna have like $1,500 barrel oil. Like guys, if you understand what's getting fucking destroyed right now, like that stuff's not coming online even if you stop the war today. That's not coming online for months to years. Some of it's like, for example, the radar thing. Okay, that $1.2 billion radar, that's going to take 8 to 10 years to rebuild. Is what they're saying. It's game over. Like these are done deals. Like the Americans have found out that they're fighting an enemy that's way more advanced than they thought, who has a better strategy. Low tech works no matter what. Oh, we're blowing up all these trucks, and again, yes, they're showing you as much footage as they can to make it look like Iran's really on their back heel. They're not. Like, yes, they're getting hammered. There's no like. There's some people. Oh, the Iranians are winning. They're winning. No, they're losing less. They're losing a lot, but they're losing less. Now they've lost more people. Why? Because well, when you bomb civilian areas, you tend to kill a lot of civilians. But strategically, they're not losing. They're actually winning. They're gaining a lot. But again, you don't look at the wars as win as lot. Like the way you win a war is not by winning; it's by not losing as much, right? And right now, the United States has everything to lose. The Iranians, they can lose a lot of stuff, but if they could, like, if Trump, who is, you could tell he's trying to find a way out of this, and the Iranians, again, the Israelis and the Iranians, okay, okay, well, we did the hit, we're satisfied, let's go to the table and talk. And again, like, it's like the third, the fourth time, the Iranians like, no, it's not going to work like that. We're not going to stop and again, the Israelis do this. They attack you, and then okay, they can defend. They can defend. Oh, we're getting to the point where we can't defend. Like, okay, it's time to do a peace truce. The Iranians like, no, no, you wanted the war, you got your war. We're going to win it, and how we're going to win it is we're going to make sure you don't have the ability to fight. The Americans are going to go home, and they are. They're not going to be able to withstand the Iranian onslaughts of rockets. This idea, oh well, because the Iranians are 80% of their rockets are degraded. Blah blah blah. They're running out of rockets. They're not running out of rockets, guys. These guys have tens of thousands. They might have 1,000,000 rockets. Like we don't know what they have. And not only that, they're still producing stuff. Like you have not stopped their maybe some manufacturing here and there, but you haven't stopped. Like they've war gamed this for. They know the United States bomb water treatment plants. They know they bomb schools. They know they bomb, food supplies. All that stuff is in caves and in bunkers. They know that they're going to have an oil shortage. you know, they've been planning this. Like they've probably got millions of barrels of oil in the caves as well. Why? Because, well, you know, and again, if they get to the point where they have to pull the missiles out of the caves with donkeys, they'll do it. Like, sure, it might not have. And again, they're at that point where they don't have to do large barrages. They got all the primary stuff. Now they're moving on secondary targets. But they're still hitting extremely vital and expensive stuff. So their losses versus Israel's losses, they're now more focusing on Israel because they've pretty much cleaned up the rest of the like again, they took out the most expensive radar system in the world. They took it out. The most advanced radar system in the world. They took it out. But yet, you're going to have these, these neocon types sitting there. We're number one. You just lost you've lost your number one drones. Okay, several of them. They've lost 11 Predator drones so far. Okay, and what that tells you is that they don't have air superiority over Iran. You keep we're bombing over Iran every night. No, you're not. That's not how it's working. The bombs are not like the F-15 Eagles and the F-35s are not flying directly over Iran. The drones are. That's why they're getting shot down. Basically the drone is a relay targeting system. Basically, it does the targeting so that the cruise missiles can come in more accurately, so that the guided bombs can come in more accurately. You can't get within a certain distance of those air defense systems, or you're going to get shot down. Right? You're going to get shot down. So the thing is the question is how many of these Predator drones and Reaper drones. The Reaper drones are the small ones, I believe, and the Predator drones are like the medium ones, and then you've got the Global Hawk, which is the big ones. Which I know for sure they've gotten 2 Global Hawks over the last past couple of years, and then a couple of these smaller naval stealth drones, which they basically stole one of those in flight. Like again, we don't know what their full capabilities are, but they're starting to show that they've got extreme capabilities. Meaning, yes, the rocket. Look. These rockets are crude looking because they don't care what they look like. They don't have to be a fancy, sleek weapon. It just has to work. The Iranians their weapons industry is for defensive purposes, not for Lockheed Martin to make money, right? Or Raytheon. Like you have to understand the Americans are paying 3 to 4 times minimum more for everything because of I forget when it was done. I think it was either before Vietnam or after Vietnam, where that all military stuff could charge more so they could, get more revenue. So a bolt, that would be $1, they'll charge you $4 for it, that kind of thing. Or $18 for it. And it's the same bolt. Why is it so expensive? Because, again, war's a racket, right? And this is policy in the States. That's why, just because they spend the most on the military doesn't mean it's the most effective, right? Now, if you put a lot of things side by side, like an old MiG-29 against a brand new F-35, yes, the F-35 is superior. But in theater, it's not the game changer that you think it is. Why? Because every time they take out these Predators, okay, which if the Americans have 20,000 of them, that's what I heard at one point they had. I don't know if that was all drones all in or just of the Predator and Reaper drones, they had 20,000 of them. Whatever it is, if you're losing 11, basically a drone a day, right? I mean, it doesn't mean the Iranians aren't losing drones. Yeah, they're losing surveillance drones too. I think they lost a Bakhtar 900 or whatever they lost, which I think is a Turkish drone. But anyway, it doesn't matter. But that doesn't matter because, like, to them, they're not using these drones the same way the U.S. is, right? They don't have to rely on the drones because they've got access to satellite data, right? That satellite data is what is basically getting the coordinates for these rockets, right? And the Americans can't stop these satellites, right? So they're either Russian or mostly Chinese, it seems. Like the Chinese are the ones releasing the photos of the base damage, right? So yes, it'll take a while to completely wipe each one of these bases off the map. But none of these bases, U.S. bases in the area, can function with impunity. They're under threat of rocket attack, every one of them, right? So just because not every building's level doesn't mean the base isn't operational, or still is still operational. It is more and more looking like they did take out a helicopter base. That is a huge loss for the Americans. Okay, so 11 Reaper drones. You're saying, so what? Well, that's 330. They're $30 million a piece. That's $330 million on the U.S. taxpayers' dime that just lost. And now they have to either wait for more Reaper drones to come in before they can commence attacks, which they probably have quite a few on station. But the problem is, like if you run out of these drones, then you have to put F-15 Eagles and F-35s right above, right within range of the target, right? Or else you won't be able to target it properly. Like a lot of these strikes are probably from the drones. It's and then there's another problem. Okay, again, there's people still dismissing the capabilities of what Iran has. I'm not overplaying their capabilities. I'm saying this is what they hit. They've hit the primary targets that they need to hit. They're blinding the United States. Okay, they're blinding Israel. Israel's their big radar and drone facility, surveillance thing got taken out. Now there's also the big news, if it can be believed. We'll know when we know, but this suggests that the Iranians have way more intelligence than we could imagine. But Netanyahu has gone missing. The rumors are that they attacked his house, his compound, stuff like that, and they may have killed him in a bunker. Good riddance if they did, but that has other implications. I have no love for that man. The amount of people that died because of that man and his administration. I think they've confirmed that his brother's been killed. So what did I tell you guys? That the Iranians are going to start to do decapitation strikes. They're going to start to do, again, like I said, since 2009, the future of the world elites, Muammar Gaddafi is the future of the world elites. Catherine Austin Fitz and I came up with I never talked to the lady, but I remember seeing her in an interview, and I was saying it just around that same time too, that it looks like the world leaders are about to kill each other, right? And because it's like I've been saying since 2012, that New World Order chair is a bloody chair to sit in. It's mob bosses fighting, right? So if they're willing to take out Netanyahu, okay, and probably his administration, that means there is no. Remember the movie Dawn's Early Light? I mentioned it a few videos ago, where one of the things was that you don't take out the leadership. There has to be always somebody there to pick up the phone, right? Well, taking out the Ayatollah, okay, is a symbolistic thing, right? The Ayatollah had a lot of, and the reports are that a couple of replacements have been killed. We'll take that with a grain of salt. I don't think that's true. But the son of the Ayatollah, who's now the new Ayatollah, I think he's been injured in a raid. So I'm not saying that the West doesn't have capabilities to find these people, because I'm sure there's Mossad agents all over Iran, you know what I mean, guiding things in, and militia, and sympathizers or whatever. But even at that, again, if you want to understand what you're up against, you have all these Iranians, pro-Iranian regime out there, basically demonstrating on behalf, against the United States and whatever, as U.S. airstrikes come in, and you hear everybody stops. There's like tens of thousands of people there. The guy's on the speaker, and you hear boom, boom, boom. Like all the bombs dropping. Like, ah! Yeah, we're not afraid of you. You know what I mean? Like it's like, okay, that's the people that you're fighting right now. They are giving the biggest fucking middle finger to, again, if Trump loses this, it's the end of Trump. The man is going to be in jail, at best. It'd be the safest thing for him. But my hunch is that they're going to give him the death penalty anyway. Why? Because it's if the left can give Donald Trump the death penalty for crimes against humanity, they'll do it. Not because they care about the crimes against humanity, but because they hate Donald Trump, right? So whatever. So they'll do the right things, but not for the right reasons. But the thing is I don't think Donald Trump is going to live long enough for that. Not making any threats. I'm telling you, just look at if the Iranians are going to take out Netanyahu, you better believe they're going to take out the U.S. administration. And so that would guarantee war. It depends on what level they go to. If they kill all the neocons within, and again, I said watch for it. They're going to take out Lindsey Graham. I'm sure they'll take out Hegseth. They'll take out Rubio. They're going to take them all out. Why? Because that, again, if you listen to what the Iranians are saying, their generals are saying, they bullshit and lie too, but they're saying, look, no, every week it's going to ramp up to something more severe. You stop, we stop, but if you keep going, you're not going to get the upper hand. So yes, they're hitting these speedboats that are dropping sea mine. Yes, they are now, the Strait of Hormuz is not completely closed. It's only open for certain vessels. So in other words, China can get their oil. The only thing that's going to happen is that the U.S. has to blockade, Chinese tankers and stuff like that, which, you're not going to bully the Chinese. You know what I mean? Because the Chinese might escort the oil. Nobody is going to, Fox News has already said, yes, we're escorting the oil in and out. Carolyn Levitt had to come out. Again, you can't believe any of them, but it's no, we didn't escort anybody out. The Iranians now are mining the Strait of Hormuz. The only way to take out those mines is either you got to hit them with a ship, which is not good, or you've got to, send in a minesweeper. You send in a minesweeper, it's going to sink in a straight. It'll never get close to the mines. It'll be sunk long before it gets there. They are waiting for you to, the Iranians, no, come in, try to do an escort. So now the Strait of Hormuz that was wide is now even narrower. So you're not even going to be able to get submarines up there. And even if you did, again, they're going to deck charge you. They do have the technology. World War II style deck charges in the Strait of Hormuz are fine. That'll sink a U.S. sub. Because it's not that deep. It's only maybe 160 feet deep at the deepest part of the channel, right? So it's maybe way into the Persian Gulf it's deeper, but the actual choke point at the Strait of Hormuz is very, very shallow. So sea mines, shallow waters, you're going to do what they say. You know what I mean? That's the ultimate guard. There's really no other way to get those. There's talks of taking over that island. I forget the name of the island, but it has a whole bunch of gas and oil refineries or whatever on it. So they want to do an amphibious landing there. But again, you will there's no logistics. The U.S. does not have air superiority. You're losing drones. The reason why you're losing the drones because they're in close. So if you lose a drone, fighter jet has no an F-15 is going to stand out on radar bigger than a Predator drone. A Predator drone is actually quite stealthy for what it is, but there's multiple ways that they detect you. They can get you from sound. They can get you from heat signature. They can get you from magnetic. The magnetic anomaly in the sky, right? X-band radar. Radar, LiDAR, there's all different ways, thermal, there's so many different ways that they get you, right? But that said, there's a new Iranian drone coming out. There's reports of it. I don't know if they're in service yet, but that the Iranians are modifying the Shahed 136s to a electric power, meaning you can't hear these things coming in. and they're cooler, so they're you're not going to be able to detect them against the thermally. They're going to be harder to detect against the backdrop of the desert because um, they're not going to be as hot, right? So they're going to blend in with the desert more. So they're going to be even harder to detect. Now, have they fielded these things yet? I don't know. But they're going to be completely dead silent coming in. Like where the other ones you can hear them coming in. They can actually pick up the frequency of the droning engine before they even pick up the thing on radar. You know what I mean? It's interesting. But that said, taking out that satellite link data link center in Israel, now the Israelis, you know what I mean? Like they can't ease. Now they have to completely rely on satellites to deal with these drones. Now there's a problem with that because if the Iranians they stole one of the top U.S. drones. This was like 10 years ago or 15 years ago, whatever it was, where basically when you have a drone, okay, that's like a Reaper or Predator drone, you could have a guy back in the United States flying it, right? But it has to do these relay bumps where the drone is flying within this satellite, but once that satellite goes out of range, it flicks over to the next satellite to keep the signal going, right? And in that 1/10,000th, 100,000th of a second between this satellite to that satellite, the Iranians timed it perfectly and stole a stealth drone. Forget which one it was. It's the White Flying Wing, and they turned it around, and they've done this a couple of times, right? So again, they're doing this to the United States. So the United States that has the best military in the world, the best technology in the world, and they're doing that. Maybe they can't do it all the time, but let's say they start, look, every time, this is what the Iranians are saying. Look, every time you crash have a failed cruise missile or whatever, we grab that reverse engineer. Like not only they're going to be able to reverse engineer these drones and stuff like that, and they do that. Like they're probably more nasty at reverse engineering than what the Chinese are. Like stolen technology is a great research and development program because it saves you so much time, right? And again, everybody's just dismissing this. Like the Trump cheerleaders are just dismissing this. I'm like, you do realize once they figure out how to crack the drone thing, then the drones become pretty much obsolete. You know what I mean? Like that's why the rockets are so effective, because even if they're not 100 million% accurate, you can't jam them. You can't hijack them. They're terminal. You know what I mean? When they're coming in on their, they're like a JDAM. Once they're terminal, right? Yes, the odd one's going to malfunction and go off course. That happens with every weapon system out there. But what I'm telling you is that they're hitting the data links that now blinds Israel. Okay, so Israel, look, they've got all these lockdown protocols of stuff, but the footage is still getting out there. They hit Israel. They're hitting Israel so hard. How many people have actually died? I don't know. Like people must be living in the bomb shelters, and that's got to be hell for sure. But again, they're going to start running out of water. Like I said, there's going to come a day. At the rate we're going, it would be probably in the next month or two, maybe even sooner, that there's just going to be it's going to be complete radio silence out of Israel. There's going to be nobody calling anybody. It's just they're going to be completely obliterated. And it's, they might get a drone over it, and it's like, holy shit, like the whole place is leveled. You know what I mean? The Iranians seem to have this capability. Is it an overestimate? No. This idea that the Iranians are going to give up and surrender or whatever because Trump said so. Look, Trump is trying to pander to his I don't know who the fuck he's trying to pander to, his donor class or whatever. That look, the war's almost over. And it's like the Iranians like, we're just getting started. You know what I mean? Like they're guys, they're going for full fucking vengeance. You killed their Ayatollah. You know, like when you understand what that, like, picture somebody killing somebody in your family, right? Like, and how angry you'd be about that, right? The Americans have started a war on behalf of Israel, and the reason why they started is because Israel said, "You guys start the war because we don't want anybody blaming the Jews." Well, like everybody knows that you're going to war because of Israel. Now, if they did take out Netanyahu, maybe they did, maybe they didn't. I mean, the guy could be just hiding because, you know, they're out for him. So let's say that that is the case, that they actually killed him. The problem that presents is that means the Iranians are definitely not willing to talk. They're definitely not willing to go to the table. They are going for broke. That means this is going to escalate really severely. Uh, it could be like, look, the data center or the radar data center that they took out in Israel, okay, is going to greatly degrade the Mossad, right? It's going to degrade them. But it's also going to degrade their F-35 capability, because if the Iranians have better radar jamming in the region, if they keep shooting down drones, if they keep they haven't hijacked a lot of drones, but if they keep doing that, because like the thing is the next thing is if they blind the satellites. At that point, once you blind the satellites, the U.S. Air Force is done. There's nothing they can do. They're not going to fly F-35s with the radars on. You'll hone in on them right away and shoot them down, right? Like the whole way the F-35 works is through data links that basically send it information. The satellite is what's detecting your targets and gives you the battlefield view, right? So you jam that satellite or drone or data center, ground link. You know what I mean? Like, and again, like the Iron Dome and the David Sling and the THAAD systems, they're all getting knocked out. And again, these giant radar domes, like the $1.2 billion, there's something like 8 of those in the world. One of them, and there was only one in the Middle East. So the other radar systems are lesser capabilities, and they're gone too. So basically, from Iran almost to Israel, there's no detection. Like, you can't stop these rockets. You can't see them. You're not seeing them until they're well within maybe 100 miles or something like that, where it's like, okay, 100 miles doesn't do, that you got seconds, like those things are traveling, like 1,000 kilometers or 600 miles in 15 minutes. Like, you got seconds to fucking react to that. There's no stop. The Iron Dome is pretty much useless, even whether it's out of missiles now or not. Like, they're getting to the point where, like, I know there's still more missiles, but like the last time they did this, I think they were using a better quality of missile. So that means they're like, one thing that nobody's considered, like, okay, yeah, they're using the cheap missiles first. We have to consider that, considering everything that Trump says is pretty much a lie or a contradiction. Like, they can't get their story straight why they're even in there, right? They can't just say, well, we're there because the Jews have said we had to go to war. Like, we're there for the chosen people. Like, they can't say that, right? People know it, but again, they'll gaslight it every which way. There's no other way. Like, there's no other reason why you're there. There's no reason why the United States has so much money tied up in the Middle East. There's no interest there for them whatsoever, other than Israel, right? Israel controls the United States. It's again, 2/3 of the Congress are dual citizenship Israeli. The rest are either Zionist neocons or whatever, or evangelical Zionists. Like that's the majority of them, right? So you're always going to go to war. There's a couple of senators that are like, no, this war is illegal. Blah blah. There's a few, but it's like 5. The rest of them are all, oh no, we have to support our ally. Blah blah blah. No, we're in the 110th expellation of the Jews. I'm not calling for it. I'm just saying that it's what you reap what you sow. That's where we're at. and we're also in the beginnings of the 10th Crusade. Again, this has all been, really started in 2015, but it's really going to kick off from this point now because, well, they fucked up big time. They faffled big time on this one. So if Netanyahu is dead, okay, then who's in charge, right? That's the next thing. Because even the next guy, he's going to say, well, okay, I'm not Netanyahu. We want peace, blah, blah, blah. And Iran will say, well, here's our demands. Like Israel can't make demands now. Like they can't, they've burnt that, like any the Iranians already came to the table to negotiate. Maybe they were negotiating in good faith or not. You could debate that, but they were at the table. And you bombed them and struck them while they were at the table negotiating peace with you. So at this point, even if the Iranians were there just for show and they weren't serious or whatever, then it wouldn't matter anyway. But at this point, they're like, no, we can never trust the United States ever again. We can never trust Israel ever again, that they won't do this to us again. So we're going to make sure that this is the last time you can possibly do this. So that means everything in Israel is going to burn. And we'll only stop when we're satisfied, not when you guys are satisfied. And this is where Trump fucked up, because last two times, it was like, okay, we hit them. They did a measured response, and then we called it a day, and we got what we wanted and whatever. But this time they're like, no. You killed our number one general a few years back. We hit you back symbolically. Then we let it go. You hit us last year. Again, every single time, who struck first? Like, this is not Iranian aggression. This is retaliation. Don't confuse the two. Is it aggressive retaliation? Abso-fucking-lutely. Look, they tried to taunt the Iranians into striking first forever and a day. But the Iranians are not stupid. They're not impulsive. They don't have like the cool, calm, collected like the Russians do. But, they really understand 100% that don't fall for it. So when you put all these nice, showing on the mainstream TV, all these nice F-22s lined up and whatever on the tarmacs for them to hit, tell them exactly where they are, which they probably weren't there, but just to say that, okay, well, they fired rockets, they shot at us first. That's what they needed the Iranians to do. But no, the Iranians are in response. They took the high ground, and because they took the high moral ground, the world was like, no, well, you started a war with a country. Like, there's no, Iranian aggression. They're retaliating because you hit them. And then you're complaining that they're retaliating too much. Well, that's too bad for you. That's not how it works. You know what I mean? But anyway, so with Netanyahu, maybe or maybe not out of the way, it's hard to say. I mean, you see how much the story changes every other day. It's okay, it was this, it was that. I was listening to some U.S. pilots, veteran pilots, talking about the Kuwaiti pilot who shot down the 3 F-15s. And they're like, okay, here's the problem I have with that. The guy shot maybe the first aircraft down from beyond visual range. But at one point, you do see the F-18 flying by as the other F-15. So he was close. So at least one or two of the planes, he was close. And they're like, the idea of this guy shooting them down by accident is probably slim to none. He was probably a sympathizer. He was probably out there shooting down drones because they've got pilots all over the UAE and Qatar and Saudi Arabia, whatever, flying around trying to shoot these Shahed drones down. Right? Yeah, they're doing that, and there's a lot of drone footage of them, knocking those out of the sky. They're doing it with gunship helicopters. I thought the gunship helicopter would probably be the best for these things because the helicopters are slightly faster, but they're targeting with that big, 30 millimeter main gun might be a better, shoot anti-aircraft rounds at the drones might be more effective, right? I don't know. But the thing is that the other thing that they hit now, this was on load base in Israel. I don't know if these would be American or Israeli tankers, but they took out a KC-146 and a KC-135. And these are two air-to-air tankers. They're probably Israeli, but that's two air tankers less that they can rely on. The air tankers, like I say, are like priority number one. Drones and air tankers, because the drones are the targeting system, right? That's what's relaying the data in real time so that your cruise missile can get there. If not, you're firing over mountains and ridges and you're relying solely on satellite data. But like the targets of opportunity, that's all the drones. Why? Because there's trucks under bridges and stuff like that. Most likely rocket trucks, but they could be just like they're hitting like tractor trailers, anything, and calling it a rocket truck. The Iranian rocket trucks are tricky because most of them, yeah, the rockets are exposed, and you can clearly tell it's a rocket truck. But then there's these ghost trucks where they look just like delivery trucks. So you got like, I don't know what your odds of hitting a ghost truck is. You know what I mean? Maybe you're just hitting regular. You just hit the hummus express. It's like yeah, there you go. You just blew up a whole bunch of goat cheese. Yeah, $750,000 missile on a truck full of goat cheese. You don't know what the hell they're hitting, right? So like every U.S. strike is not valuable, and not every one of them is completely wasted, but I'm not seeing them hit anything of real extreme significance. The tunnel entrances, whatever you blew up, they're going to be open again in a week. You know what I mean? Like the bulldozers are a marvelous technology. Like it's amazing what you can do with a bulldozer. Even if you could get a cruise missile down a mine shaft or into one of these entrances, they're not going to go far anyway because these entrances, they got blast doors. The only way you take out the stuff is from the inside, and good luck with that, getting even a Mossad agent in there. They probably got these tunnels so locked, and God knows how many tunnels they have. Some of these tunnels go well into the mountain, like 1,500 feet deep. Like there's no penetrator that can hit that. You know what I mean? Yeah, so 3 to 4 F-15s down for sure. 2 air tankers down. 11 expensive drones, possibly another 2 extremely expensive drones, possibly a helicopter base, unknown amount of helicopters, 3 extremely expensive radar systems, a radar data center gone, a French naval base hit, a British naval base hit, or airfield hit, a 27 or plus more U.S. bases hit. Tankers, I don't know what they're up, 30, 40 tankers sunk. If you look at what the Iranian Navy's losing in comparison, like half the ships that they're hitting are at dock. They're hitting the ones at dock because those are probably the obsolete ships. Maybe not. Who knows? But there's like hundreds of speedboats, right? You're not going to take all those out. And almost all of them are capable of dropping sea mines. So you got sea mines in the strait. The strait is pretty much closed down. You're at $130 to $110 a barrel of oil and rising. Gold's going to go through the roof. Global trade is halted from the area predominantly. The reserves are all backlogged. Oil refineries are on fire. Desalination plants hit everywhere. Power grids down. Buildings, airliners, airport hubs destroyed. Some of the stuff's still functioning. Like some of these airports are really big. So, like the United Emirates Airport, that their main airport is it's one of the biggest in the world. But they're still taking losses. Like you take out an airliner, multi-billion-dollar airliners, billion-dollar motels. List goes on and on and on and on. So who is taking the hit here? Look, the United States and Israel started a war, and my food and gas prices are going up here in Canada. People in Southeast Asia are having, supply chain problems because of this. Guys, this is going to create a global depression. Hopefully not for long, but it's just absolutely nightmarish what's going on. What else did I want to cover? Um, what else? There was something else I wanted to make sure I talked about. A boot. Got to say it properly. A boot. No, covered that. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Like all the like synagogues getting shot at, and Iranian pro-Iranian places getting shot at. Attacks are like these attacks are all over the place. You've got B-52 bases, basically on full lockdown because of drone sightings over U.S. bomber bases in the states. So the war is like something that America is not ready for is a war on their own home soil. If they took out Netanyahu, you can guarantee that there will be jihadi groups or whatever, or sympathizer groups agitated in, basically proxy groups, sleeper cells, whatever you want to refer to them as, probably agitated in the States and all over Europe. I forget which country it was. Was it Netherlands or Sweden? They had to. They were under threat. You got airports that are being delayed because of these threats. Terrorist threats, stuff like that. So, guys, you're going to see like airliners blown out of the sky, in the name of Durka Durka, right? You're going to see the peace trucks. You're going to see all that stuff. You're definitely going to see political assassinations. I'm not calling for it. But there's another thing that, again, I talked about it before, about, like I say, if this goes on the long way, it's really the U.S. veterans that are really, really on my radar, and more of them, are voicing their, like, look, it's never these politicians, kids that like all these people that are, well, we need to go to war, we need to take out Iran, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, they don't fight, neither do their family, right? Like none of these neocons, their family, unless their family member actually volunteered for the army, but none of them usually end up fighting, and if they do go, they usually don't go on the front line. It's like it's all for PR, right? Unless you're like Prince Harry and Prince William, you know what I mean. Yeah, okay, yeah, those guys, well, they're British, so they're different. You know what I mean? Like the British, like, they like the gallant knight into battle. It's a British thing. Like they don't do it for PR, they do it for the for the glory of it. Not that they're more brave, it's just it's a different mindset. It's like the Black Prince kind of mindset, right? Which is kind of cool. That said, they did get one Type 45 destroyer, the HMS Dragon, is now en route, and the aircraft carrier. They put basically what would normally take, I forget how many weeks. They basically ran their maintenance crew like 22 hours at full capacity just to get one warship out there, because all the other warships are delayed for maintenance. All the subs are delayed for maintenance. That's what happens when you care more about hate speech laws and pronouns, right? That's the problem we have up here in Canada too. It's like, why is all our equipment dilapidated? Because Trudeau, gave all the money to the LGBTQ around the world. It's fucking horrible. But anyway, you get the idea. Like it's you got one destroyer that needs a minesweeper to protect it while it's trying to protect the aircraft carrier, right? So what are they really going to be able to do? Well, the thing is not much. It's more like a symbolism thing. What they're going to do is put this thing in the Mediterranean, around Cyprus, right? It does two things. It makes it look like they're doing something. Like you have British neocons as well that, oh, we got to go and take out this evil regime in Iran. The one that was, that are in defense mode. Like, I mean, they're on the offensive, sure, but like, I mean, it's defense mode. You attack them, they're retaliating. I'm not saying I agree with what they're doing. Well, I'm just saying, can you not see why they're doing it? You know what I mean? So, HMS Dragon, cool looking Type 45 destroyer. Wish the crew safety, but just stay in the Mediterranean because the Queen Elizabeth, she's a beautiful aircraft carrier, but she's not going to last 5 minutes in the Strait of Hormuz. Neither will the HMS Dragon. And where's all the Type 26s? I thought you guys had like 3 or 4 new Type 26s. But anyway, I digress. So we'll see what happens there with these destroyers. But again, we're about to find out that destroyers and stuff like that, until they can jam drones 100%, which this is one of the reasons why, and I've already like alluded to it, that like the Iranians are not firing, like really going after the aircraft carriers 100%. They can get them. It's just they would have to expend a lot of ammunition to do it. But they would take out every aircraft carrier group. The big one is they'd have to use the cluster rockets to damage the radar systems on the Yaliburks. If not, they'll jam like all the cruise missiles and jam all the all the drones, right? So to be effective, you have to find a way to get them in closer so they have less time to respond. Because, like for example, in the Red Sea, when the Houthis, which are they're sitting there patient and quiet, like they haven't really joined in yet. I think they like this idea of Donald Trump getting the U.S. Navy to escort ships through the Strait of Hormuz, like it's a pipe dream. Like, oh yeah, well we'll just increase the air power. Well, you can't keep up that intensity. Look, the aircraft carrier, its main advantage is that it gives you a floating runway close to the battlefield. But that only works when the shoreline's not covered with anti-shipping missiles, right? Otherwise, you now need air tankers, right? Or drop tanks. And if you have drop tanks, you have less payload. So the thing is that if something happens to the tanker, like it takes 2 refuelings to go from where they typically station to get over target or close enough to the target, fire your missiles or bombs, guided bombs or whatever you're doing, and then turn around and come back. You got to meet up with the tanker before you land, right? So because like F-18s, Super Hornets, F-16s, like those things only have like a 600-mile internal range. Maybe the Super Hornet, maybe 700 to 800-mile range at most. F-35, 800 to 1,000-mile range at most. You need drop tanks, or you need the tankers, right? So otherwise, you have to bring in the aircraft carriers so close that the problem you run into is quite simple. You're well within targeting range of the rockets, the missiles. Now, the rockets are meant more for stationary targets, but there are types of rockets that they do have that are, they can maneuver a bit. The rocket doesn't maneuver, but the warhead does maneuver towards the ship, right? They're still more of a gravity fall, but they will hit a moving target within reason. Something big like an aircraft carrier, they can actually target it. But you gotta be with kind of unmissable range. Now the cruise missiles, they're coming in maybe not as fast as the rockets, but they're coming in faster than the drones. The idea of the drones is to take out radar, antennas, and stuff like that. Maybe if you get really lucky and you smash a Shahed 136 into the BLS system full of Tomahawks, sure. But you have to understand, like the U.S., those ships, they're going to have to go and replenish. Like replenishing Tomahawks at sea is not easy. They have to go to a port somewhere. And my hunch is that, okay, the Tomahawks are part one. The Sea Sparrows or whatever they're using, like the AIM-6s or the PAC-6 Sea Sparrows or whatever they're using now to shoot down rockets and stuff like that. They probably have more of those on board because they haven't been attacked. So when you start seeing the harassing drones where it's like, okay, we can jam it, but it's still coming. Okay, we have to fire a missile. And they start burning up the warship missiles. Then not too long after that they're going to run low on missiles, and then they're down to the naval guns and the Sea Whiz or phallic systems, Gatling guns, and electronic warfare, and then what's called the star shells, with the big, those. Once they're at that stuff, like those are completely defensive countermeasures. They have to go and reload, or else they're not going to be able to stay within range, right? Now, the other problem is that an amphibious landing is an impossibility. The French carrier group, I don't know where it's going to go or what it's going to do. The British carrier group is, again, it's two warships. Others will be joining shortly. And again, the HMS Dragon and is going to be another like week before it gets to Cyprus anyway. But Cyprus is kind of outside the conflict zone. Again, it's still not. It's debated who actually hit Cyprus. Was it the Israeli Mossad and the U.S. Hitting these bases? Just to kind of like get other people into the war. Let's drag the UK in again. Like the Americans are trying to drag everybody in. They've got like, look, the oil prices are going to go up. They're talking to smaller countries saying, okay, empty your strategic reserves so that keep the oil prices low, right? But there's another problem with that. A lot of these smaller countries can't do that because that's a hell of a gamble for them if it goes awry and the war doesn't come to an end. They can't refill. And then suddenly, don't worry about high gas prices because gas is going to become unobtainium. Meaning no matter what the price is, you can't buy because there is none. That's the big problem that we're going to see globally. Is there's going to be a lot of fuel shortages. It's going to make like the 1970s fuel shortage look like like a cakewalk. Hence why I'm going to buy 2 bicycles. Look, my grandfather, God rest him, he used to take one of the horses. He had a car, okay, back in the 50s. He had a car, but he would take the horse and buggy to the neighboring town to go pick up supplies, and he'd come back, right? And he'd save the car for maybe once a week. They'd go out and do go drive far to go get the groceries, right? Or they'd go to church with the car. They didn't drive all the time. If they had to go to the local store, they took the horse and the buggy, right? Yeah, that's what it was like for probably into the 1970s for my grandpa. This house did not have hydro in it. I think until the late 1960s, early 1970s or 1980s. Because I remember, I remember I was maybe 5 years old. Somebody asking my grandmother, she was just standing out there before the veranda was built, how you liking the new hydros? Is it making life a lot easier for you? I don't remember which uncle. It might have been my Uncle Pete, God rest him. But I remember them saying, "How do you like hydro?" Can you, then it was probably $10 a month at the time, right? And they were like, "Well, it's a lot of money, but it is, it's nice to have a stove, the stove, the stuff like that." I remember them, my dad grew up in this house. There was no hydro in this house. Oh yeah, this house, yeah, parts of it are 200 years old, 150 to 200 years old. Not all of it, like the flooring underneath the floor here is original to the house, which would have been built on that side of the house, probably 150, 200 years old. This side, my grandfather did back in the 1940s or 50s. The house there's parts of it. Like that wall is old. Yeah. There's like 3 houses built into one. The newest parts of it would be from like early, like the veranda was put in the very early, late 1970s, early 1980s, if I remember as a kid. And then in the early 1980s, my grandfather built that shed. Yeah, and then the barns. The barns are probably older than my dad. They were probably original to the property. I don't know. It's old. It's old stuff. Just for those that were wondering about it. But yeah, so get yourself if you're not in shape right now, maybe start cycling. Make sure you go get even if it's just cheap bike. Get yourself a cheap bike. Even a bike with some saddlebags or something. Just so you have mobility when there's no gas, right? Not so much just so you can get back and forth to work. That might help. But look, guys, people don't realize I'm already in the the collecting phase of grid down, or I've already been doing that. look at all the stuff I get for free, right? I go like, okay, this is a little bit worn out, but it's still functional. I keep it, right? Um, I'm already in that mindset. You know what I mean? Like, okay, if I can't afford something, maybe I can find it for free. For example, the coal lamps and stuff like that. Yeah, like those are all used. And some of those coal lamps are older than me. Uh, the reason why I have these things is because I know in the future that in a depression, that's the stuff that keeps the home comfort. Look, I'm going to put in a wood stove this year, hopefully. Why? Because and I'm going to do as much as I can to cut like 10 years worth of wood over the next couple of years, because maybe in the next couple of years there is no more two-stroke gas that I can make, because you just can't get gas and cut things down. I already have my two-man buck saws. I got all that stuff, right? Because we could be going back to the 1800s. Maybe we'll never go back to the Stone Age. We're too smart of a species, and we just have too much. Even if everything was EMP'd. Oh, this is what I wanted to show you too before I end the video. Even if everything was EMP'd, all electronics, there's still enough stuff that 1 second after, there's already somebody rebuilding new parts of electronics and stuff like that. Yeah, I got that book for free, of course. I can't wait to read it. Might come in handy. But what I'm getting at is that, look, the Titanic is like smushed the iceberg so hard on this one. The Israelis basically screwed the world in their war here. They want to bring everybody else to fight on and die on their behalf, because it's the way the Israelis think, right? They're genocidal. They have a genocidal nature to them. Not all of them, I get it, but again, they want to fight the Iranians to the last American. You have all these just following order Americans getting on, like WASP class landing craft as we speak. Guys, this is gonna look, the Dieppe raid of World War II. Okay, was Canada's big blunder, but a lot of people are looking at it now, declassified. Some people say, well, they just said the story to cover up the blunder. They landed 3,600 Canadians right at a cliff face, right? Now, it was a slaughter fest. 1,800 guys got captured. The rest were all killed, right? Now, Dieppe is a very, it's something that, every Canadian, well, old stock Canadian kind of, we remember it. You know what I mean? The Dieppe raid was an absolute, disaster, right? But it might have also been a sacrifice, because the reports were Canadian Special Forces were trying to go after an Enigma machine. When they got to the building where it was reported to be, they were too late. They didn't get it. But yeah, they used the Dieppe raid as a distraction. Now, they could do the same thing here and just, okay, well, if we're going to kill, say, 18,000 U.S. troops, but we'll be able to do this, infiltrate this way and that way, and, who knows. The idea of taking that island, like the refinery or whatever on that island there, the Iranian island, and setting up base there so that the Americans can get the oil from the Strait of Hormuz to the world. Look, the whole Maduro thing, okay, was to supply oil to Israel while the oil supply was down. To screw the rest of the world, screw the Americans. It's not for the American people. The oil is for Israel. The Venezuelan tankers are going to Israel. That's where they're going. And maybe some might go to the United States, but look, at some point it's not going to matter though, because all the refineries are getting knocked out. So yeah, it's you're not going to put a cargo ship full of gasoline, or diesel or whatever. That thing will be burning. Like someone's going to light a cigarette and fucking light the thing on fire. Crude oil, fine, but yeah, like these ships, no smoking. You know what I mean? Anyway, no, they fucked up. They fucked up. And the thing is Trump is trying to find a way out to save face because we could never admit when we're wrong. We could never apologize. You got the same problem on the left too. Don't get me wrong, but like this double downing is just going to kill a lot of people. Look, we don't know what the actual death toll is. Do you really truly believe only 140 Americans were wounded and only 7 have been killed? And when there's thousands of civilians killed on like all over the Middle East, but we're to believe that no, guys, it's going to be, some estimate as high as probably 13,000 something American soldiers have probably been killed. We'll never know. They're never going to tell us the truth. Why do you think there's such a heavy blackout? If the United States was winning and winning and winning, look, whenever they get a good strike on something, such as torpedoing a warship, they plaster that all over the news. Why? Because it's a good PR for the war machine, right? When they take out these little Iranian speedboats and mine layers, or like an Iranian warship sitting at the dock or a submarine sitting at the dock, those things are mostly down for maintenance, right? Yeah, it has its problems, right? It has its problems because that kind of gloating is not, and it's done on both sides. I get that. Like, again, okay, they shot down 11 Reaper drones, but maybe there's 150 Reaper drones flying around. You know what I mean? So that's a small proportion, right? But, again, if you're losing a Reaper drone per day, that is a big loss economically. Again, this war, God knows what it actually costs. So there's so many different speculation, like $2 billion it's $1 billion a week. And about to escalate, and that's just the U.S. stuff, not mention all the economic losses of billions of dollars of tourism and all that. Like, people still trying to get the airliners, like those airliners when they leave, with their tourists, right? Those airliners aren't coming back. The insurance companies won't let them. You know what I mean? Like, they're gonna be like, okay, well, if we, whoever can get out gets out. If you're on a plane, great. If you're not, too bad for you. Because there's not going to be enough airplanes, I don't think, to get all the servicemen out, to get all the, and the servicemen are going to be left there to die. So you're not going to get all the servicemen out. You're not going to get all the tourists out. You're not going to get all the embassy people out, but the embassy people will always get, they'll fill the planes with those people first because, elites be elite, and like fuck the little guy, But that said, like, I mean, you're watching like some people like they're on the airliner, and here they are filming. It's like, okay, plane, hangar, Burt plane, Burt hangar, plane, hangar, Burt plane, Burt hangar. Like, again, they're getting limited. Like every time they get the commercial airports get hit. There's military assets near them, and every airport, no matter how civilian of an airport it is a military asset because that's where stuff can be landed. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. Again, the idea that Netanyahu has been killed, if it is to be true, the Israelis are going to have to reveal it at some point. If it comes out to be a hoax, we'll see him. We'll see that cocksucker's face sooner than later. But if he is killed, hopefully he's burning in hell. Netanyahu was one of the most evil men on the planet, and the people, and hopefully they got all the top generals there like that, because these are the people that are getting everybody killed, right? But that's also a massive decapitation strike of leadership, right? So who's next in charge of the Mossad? Who's next in charge of the military? You know what I mean? Like, it's the fact that the Iranians, if this is true, have shown that they have intelligence much greater than what we thought. So again, I told you guys, the Americans, when they get into a war with Iran, Iran will be the most advanced country you've ever fought. It doesn't mean they're the most advanced military in the world, but their strategy it's working. Yes, they're taking losses. There's no doubt about that. You can't underplay that. But it's losses that they're willing to endure to make sure that they win. And at the rate they're going to win. when the first warships get near the Strait of Hormuz, you're going to find out just how useless those warships are. Because maybe what they've done is the Israelis may have convinced Starmer to say, okay, send your Type 45 destroyer in there, because it's too risky for our guys, right? Look, the Iranians have, I think, again, the Israeli military is like maybe 12 warships and 3 submarines or something like that. It's not very much, right? They've already hit the naval port. How much did they, you're not seeing the, again, depending on what's in port, like maybe anything dry docked, the Iranians would have hit. So if there's a warship or a submarine on dry dock for maintenance, yeah, they would have hit those, but you're not seeing the footage, right? You might see the satellite data, footage after when China releases it. And that's usually the thing is that what we've been seeing, though, claims versus actual proof. With the Iranians, what we've been seeing is probably 50-50 of what they claim is actually true. So we hit this base, we destroyed this, and this. A week later, China lets out a satellite photo. Here's what we see. Okay, yeah, it confirms it, right? So it seems to be they're half lying, half telling the truth. The Trump administration, maybe about 10% of what they're saying is true. The rest is all just, it changes all the time. Who knows, right? They have no plan. This is again, and when the war comes to the American soil and the West in general, like everybody's going to be blaming the Americans and the Jews, right? Like it's the Israelis, the New York Jews, all these Zionist neocons. I know it's not all of them. I know I got to add that in, but it doesn't really matter because it's not all of them, but it's always them. You know what I mean? That's the thing. So all these wars of regime change and stuff like that, again, like basically the Iranians are just are working on regime change via rocket power in Israel. That's the end of Israel, guys. Like it's the beginning of the end of Israel. Like good riddance. I mean, like most of the world's problems are because of these people. Again, Trobes call me anti-Semite or whatever. But the bad banking practices with the usury, all this corruption that you get, right? And almost every time at the very top, the policymaker and the idea guy is a Steinstein or a Berg. I'm just saying, I know it's not all of them, but you can't not notice, right? And all these wars are for Israel. Every Middle Eastern war is for Israel. Even the Ukrainian war is being fought on behalf of it. Zelensky, a dual citizenship Israeli. All of his administration. Link back to they're all dual citizenship. Most of his administration is dual citizenship Israelis. How is that possible? Yeah. Anyway, I'm not saying the Russians are sweet and innocent, but what I'm saying is that is what it is, guys. Is what it is. But yeah, this is a big one. We'll see where it plays out to. My hunch is that it's probably going to turn out true that Netanyahu was killed. This will be a shock to the intelligence agency around the world. But what I'm really wondering is how many, like for example, Unit 8500 or 8400 or whatever it is, like if they're hitting those places too. If they do, it'll be all the like you're going to see like a whole bunch of releasing of information that can't be controlled. And you'll be saying, why would the Israelis let this out? Because they won't be able to police it anymore. So, like in Saudi Arabia, what they're saying to their citizenry is that if you release any of the damage or the footage, you're going to be executed. And again, but remember, it's the Iranians that are the tyrants, right? Chopping they kill babies and chop the women in half. I mean, yeah, okay, yeah, they stone women, but Saudi Arabia does it. Why is Saudi Arabia our ally and the Iranians are the bad guy, monsters? When they both, it's the Middle East, they all do the same thing. Your number one ally carpet bombs, 2 million people, killing 70,000 that they admit, probably more than that. and with the average age being between 0 and 15 years old, like 1 and 15 years old. They're mainly killing babies in the Gaza, right? Again, trying to reverse the blame for U.S. and it is the U.S. that bombed the school. They were hitting targets next to the school, and they accidentally targeted the school, thinking it was all part of the same compound. But again, it doesn't really matter. And you say, well, that's because they're using human shields. They all use human shields. The IDF operates underneath public hospitals. The idea is because they know it's bad PR, right? To bomb a hospital, to bomb a school, to bomb a desalination plant. Problem is most people understand that the governments are using the people as human shields. The Israelis do it. They all do it. They all do it, right? They all do it. So again, the implications is that now there might not be any line of communication diplomatically between Israel and Iran, which means Iran is just going to keep hitting them. Tomorrow, 2 more days, we'll be 2 weeks into this war. So this war has now went on as long as the 12-day war back a year ago, but the damage is probably 10 times. I forget what rocket barrage this is. It's in the high 30s now. It's like barrage 31, 32, 33, whatever they're at. The satanic, the satanic Jews, again, there are Jews that are satanic, openly admitted. Their bloodletting ritual, I wonder if they, they factored in that a lot of it was going to be their own guys. And they will kill their own for this. It is a part of that faction. That's the Messianic branch of it, right? It's just crazy. So that means that the Iranians, again, they're running out of rockets because, they're not firing as much. They don't, like I said, guys, the Iranians firing less rockets is not necessarily a good thing because it means that they're able now to hone in on stuff because there's nothing to really like the early rocket barrages were to overwhelm the Iron Dome, to overwhelm the David Sling and the THAAD systems and the Patriot systems, which they're doing now pretty much with impunity. They're still shooting down a lot, but it doesn't matter. Every night they hit the targets they want to hit. And now, plus, it takes time. And this is why you're seeing it, it dies down, and all of a sudden, here's 200 rockets coming in. And then it dies down, there's 1 or 2 rockets, a few drones, and then all of a sudden, bang, because they're retargeting. It's okay, well, we got that target. They're not going to just keep hitting the same target that they've already destroyed, right? So they're, eventually they're going to run out of military targets. But they're clearly targeting data center, data and surveillance. And again, it's Cobra Kai rules. If you can't see, you can't fight. Can't breathe, you can't fight. Sweep the leg. The Iranians are going for the full sweep the leg. You know what I mean? And the whole thing here is that none of the rest of the world willingly wants to join the United States and Israel, right? They're just no, you can't invoke Article 5 because they didn't attack you. You attacked them. Now, if the Iranians would have shot first, you better believe every fucking Air Force in the Western world would be bombing the shit out of them. But it's not cowardice, it's just the sliminess of politics where it's no, we got to protect our own asses, right? And nobody in the Western world is looking at this and saying that my population wants to support anything that Trump's doing right now. Look at the backlash Carney's still getting for saying, I stand with Israel and I support our allies. But with great regret. you know what I mean? And they're no, you fucking walk that back. You explain yourself, sir. You fought Trump on almost everything for the past year, and most of it rightfully so. Not that I'm a fan of Carney, but when somebody's trying to destroy your economy, you gotta kind of take action, right? And the thing is Carney's on a bit of a roll. Yeah, we got the everything crisis. Are we going to be able to outrun the global economic collapse that's taking place? Like, look, guys, this is right now. This is the oil collapse right now. Okay, is 17 times worse than under COVID already. 2 weeks in. Yeah. Tell me how this does not end up in a global depression. Like, it doesn't matter if they print more money at this point. Like, it just doesn't matter. Your money is going to buy less. You are going to have more debt. But in a month's time, you might see $1 trillion worth of assets destroyed throughout the Middle East. $1 trillion. That's my guesstimate. Look, I told you guys earlier this year you're going to see $4,500 to or $5,400 to $8,500 gold. No, it's going to be by the year's end. It's going to be like 15,000 to 25,000, maybe more. It's hard to say. Why? Because the trajectory is not sustainable. You're about to see the collapse of the U.S. military. You're about to see Israel wiped completely off the map. You're about to see every conservative government pretty much lose across the fucking board because of Trump. It doesn't matter if it's America or not, because it's just right wing or bad, right? Like, Trump has set back like the momentum that us on the right have been trying to get out of these wars, to restore the rule of law, to balance budgets, to live within our means. And all that's going to be thrown away because of people just, protest, vote to the left, right? It's going to be a slaughter. We're going under full communism in, the next cycle of elections globally, pretty much. But I predicted this years ago. Don't worry, it's not going to last. Why? Because one of the good things about the collapse is the government's not going to be able to have the money to actually fuck with you. Downside is you're going to be on your own. And yeah. And again, the migrant crisis is going to start pretty soon. People are going to once they start starving to death, they're going to start leaving the Middle East. Once the Middle East was the hub that brought a lot of food into Africa. That's not happening right now. Yes, the Mediterranean is going to be full of African migrants like you've never seen, like in the millions. And yes, everybody's going to blame Jews. Why? Because it's their war. Is it all of them? No. Doesn't matter. Yes, you're going to see ethnic wars all throughout Canada and the United States. You're already seeing it. Muslims are attacking Jews. Jews are attacking Muslims. I want them all to go. These people, you want to kill each other with your stupid fucking libel wars? Take it back to the Middle East. You know what I mean? We shouldn't be there. They shouldn't be here. It's as simple as that. They can't conduct themselves like normal human beings. Fuck off. You know what I mean? We're sick and tired of them. Everybody is sick and tired. Like, everybody's angry. Everybody's sick and tired. Now, for me, I understood it was going to be like this, right? So it's just like, okay, yes, it's frustrating, it's maddening, but don't let it ruin your, don't let it ruin your day. Go do something more positive in the day, because it's just like, it is what it is. If we're lucky, these assholes kill each other, and then the rest of us can get on with our lives. Problem is a lot of innocent people get killed in the crossfire. None of this needs to happen. In this day and age, if we want to use the progressive left mantra, why do we have war? It's the current year. You know what I mean? Like, why should we have war in the current year? You know what I mean? And they've been saying this for 1,000 years. In this day and age, why is there war? It's because of a handful of elite cocksuckers that are they're just fucking evil. they're death cults. Whether they're Zionists, whether these evangelicals, whether they're just like capitalist war hawks, whether they're just like satanic and stupid, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. There's always going to be that sect of society, and the rest of us need to keep that in check. There can never be a situation where a president can just take you to war without the approval of the people. Never mind the Congress or Parliament or whatever. No, the people have to elect the war. Oh, but that's too slow. Too bad. We have to do everything in crisis and expediency always gets us into worse trouble. Because of climate change, we have to fuck this up. because of COVID, we have to fuck all this up. No. Because, we have to do preemptive strikes on these people because they might hit us. You know what I mean? Yeah. No. Like it should be illegal for every country to do preemptive strikes on each other. Period. Because that guarantees you war. That's the whole point of it. Like, again, lashing out in pain as they strike you, as they say. People are sick and tired of it. They don't want that anymore. They're angry. The veterans are angry. Yes, you are going to see a U.S. military coup. There's no doubt about that. I still say it's more likely going to be a U.S. veteran that is going to kill Trump and his administration. But you could see the rogues in the CIA. You could see active duty law enforcement starting to go after these corrupt judges and congressmen and all these people. Yeah, you're going to see, because the people, especially when the flag draped coffins start coming back. And you have to understand, a lot of these people are not going to be able to come back. They've been vaporized by rockets. You'll never find them. So maybe some of these war dead are not, you're just not going to know. It's the same as Ukraine. Like, you have all these nameless people dead that nobody knows that they're even dead. You know what I mean? It's just the loss of life is just astronomical. Well, you're about to see that in the Middle East. I mean, it's amazing more people aren't dead than what there already is, considering the amount of firepower that's been unleashed. And the U.S. firepower is not monopoly here. You know what I mean? Even if you are to nuke the Iranians, it's still not going to stop them. Yeah, and not only that, the second you nuke them, you unite the Muslim world. Like, maybe that Kuwaiti pilot, again, maybe he was just flying tired and those are MiG-29s and whatever. But the logic, and again, this is why it's more likely actually that it was actually a sympathizer, is that guys that actually flew F-15s are like, no. They didn't mistake these things for MiG-29s for two reasons. Number one, the command structure would see these guys coming in, and before you would even fire on something, you would get a request from an AWAC or ground saying, look, I got 3 targets here. What are they? Am I clear to engage? That's every Air Force out there does this. This guy didn't do that. So, again, can you imagine a bunch of sympathizers doing a strafing run with an F-18 across a U.S. base? Again, as these air tankers get taken out, it limits the U.S. war. There's only 100 of them, 110 of them, tankers. We only have 9, so Trump is out there telling everybody, well, you got to give us your military assets so we can keep fighting this war. Well, why would we want to lose our stuff? But it's also an eye-opener of you can't fight a World War II style war anymore. Planes, warships. Again, when these carrier groups are ordered to go near the Strait of Hormuz within unmissable range of anti-shipping missiles, the Iranians are just waiting patiently. They know they're going to have to do it. There's no way you're opening up the Strait of Hormuz. There's sea mines in there now. You need mine clearers to get them. I don't even think the Iranians would be able to get those things out of there. You know what I mean? They're there. They're there. You know what I mean? It's even if they're the low tech World War II style mines, they could be. If they're not, if these are Chinese ones, the warships. And sea mines are not easy to detect. They are hard to detect. One of the countries that's one of the best minesweepers forces in the world, believe it or not, are Canadians. We're well known for minesweeping, right? And it's hard. It's not easy to do. So what? Canada has to send all its minesweepers to die for Israel? No, we're not doing it. No. You don't have the Allied support for this war. This is really, truly a U.S.-Israeli war, on behalf of Israel. This was all fought on behalf of Israel. And they may have lost their leadership. And if they did, that means the country has now got no, their decision-making capability is going to be in array because of the command structure they have. The Iranians have a different command structure that's superior. It's more of a hydra. You cut off one head, 2 more appear. You know what I mean? It's to the point where The next 2 weeks, okay, you're going to see the war dead numbers coming in. The economy, everybody's already feeling it. You're not going to feel it. You are feeling it already. The gas prices are already up like 60 cents a gallon in the States, 40 to 60%. That's translating here, right? Not quite as bad because at least we have the oil in Alberta. Now, of course, Alberta is going to, make. Why is Albertan oil going up? Because of the petrodollar. The Saudis might be saying, you know what, Saudi Aramco might be a thing of the past. I don't think they're going to do away with the petrodollar yet, but they might. So what happens when the Saudis ditch the petrodollar in favor of the BRICS nations? Is the Americans going to bomb them too? What happens if Canada says, that's it, we're off the petrodollar? Guaranteed that would be a shooting war between Canada and the United States. Like, this is what it's all about. This is why they took out Saddam. This is why they took out Gaddafi. And of course on behalf of the Greater Israel Project. But again, the rest of the region, as soon as they're selling their oil outside the U.S. dollar, that's it. You're going to see a massive collapse in the United States. Now, I don't think we're going to outrun that. Carney, he's tried his best, but Trump is just moving too fast and fucking up his own economy, and he's going to pull us down with it. So we got to brace for impact here in Canada, big time. Look, the Canadian economy is a bouncing ball, good, bad, and gamble, right? Carney, you might not like him, but he is doing all these trade deals and everything, and he's going to keep doing that. But we still are way too dependent on U.S. trade, right? And the United States is about to collapse, at the rate we're going. They pull some rabbit out of the hat to keep it going, but again, you can only go to backup plan A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Once you get the backup plan W, X, Y, Z, I mean, you're toast. You're toast. And look, they're running out of options. Boots on the ground and a U.S. draft is like a U.S. draft starts an actual shooting civil war down there. The veterans, you can call them up. Yeah, the odd goon is going to go because, whoa, I got to be a brave military guy and just follow orders. Again, all these guys in the military going there, this is an illegal war. You have the right to stand down. Stand down. They could end all this madness just by saying no. What are you going to do? Arrest them all? You know what I mean? But if you go and you die or you get your arms and legs blown off, don't come back bitching because you knew this was an illegal war for Israel. You know what I mean? But my master in chief said I had to, again, it has nothing to do with U.S. sovereignty. It has nothing to do with protecting the United States, right? This is all for Israel and the Greater Israel Project and the Rothschild banking system and the petrodollar, oil. That's what it's all for. It's never for the women and children, democracy, and the little guy. It's definitely not for the liberation of the Iranian people. They're still trying to shop that one. More than half of the Iranian people are in favor of that regime, right? I'm not saying there isn't a large sect of the Iranian society. You find this in every society. Look, Canada, half the people love Carney, half the people hate him, right? Whatever. Trump, half the people love him, half the people hate him. Yes. Maduro, half the Venezuelans were happy that he was overthrown. The other half were upset. Again, it's that's why you need to stay out of other people's business. Let us deal. Let that be our problem. If Iran wants regime change, that's their problem. But to say that we have to do regime change for the women and children, democracy in Iran, well, you better start with Saudi Arabia. You better start with Israel because Israel is the number one genocidal. Again, it's just by the numbers. They basically genocided 70,000 people and displaced 2 million of them in the Gaza Strip. And they're fighting with Lebanon right now, which Lebanon, they're taking out Israeli systems too. I think they've lost 2 Merkava tanks. That's every loss that the Israelis take in that stuff. They've shot down a helicopter, 2 Merkava tanks. Yes, they've got about 1,300 Merkava tanks, but they've already lost a lot of them going into Gaza. It's just, again, they keep a wrap on the numbers. But the point I'm making is that this is a world war right now. They're going to suck China and Russia into this thing on behalf of Jewish Israelis, right? The Jews are complicit in this. There's no other way to look at it. This is why we're in the 110th explanation of the Jews. They're incapable as a group of self-reflection. They always see themselves as the victim, never the aggressors, when they are clearly the aggressor. You know what I mean? And because of that, you know, it's going to, like, again, you reap what you sow. They're going to get themselves wiped off the map. You know, and then everywhere they go, they're going to be persecuted for the next 100 years because nobody's going to want them around. Nobody can vote for anybody that's pro-Israel anymore because they'll get you and your loved ones killed. You can't, you know, or the progressive nut jobs that want to have your children, you know, with these transgender things. These are all progressive ideas that come from Jewish minds, right? You can call me whatever you want, anti-Semite, whatever, hate speech, whatever. But am I wrong? You can't call me wrong because it keeps exposing itself. Again, almost everything I report on is openly admitted. You know, some stuff, sure, I could be wrong on. That's why you got to wait a couple of days to see how accurate the reports are, because the first claims are usually wrong, you know. And I don't mind. Like, for me, I only care about telling you the truth. I'm just the messenger, right? I'm not threatening anybody. I'm telling you, these are the people that have us under threat of possibly thermonuclear war. You know, so who's the bad guy? Me? You know what I mean? Again, if the Israelis were doing so well, they would be showing you everything. There's a reason why they've got a media blackout. I mean, there's a lot of reasons. There is strategic reasons why under military conflict that you'll black out. You know, even the Iranians have a media blackout too. But the Saudis, they've taken it to the next level. It's like, okay, you release any footage of the attacks, we're gonna kill you. We're gonna cut your head off. Right? Literally, they're gonna kill their own population for tattletaling, right? But it's gonna come out because they're not gonna be able to keep a branch on it. Look, if you truly did lose Netanyahu, they're not going to be able to keep that under wraps for long. That is going to be a major victory for the Iranians. That is going to put the fear of God in the U.S. Trump administration. They are trying to find a way out, but they're again, the Iranians, just because, you know, the Americans are like, okay, well, we're satisfied now, that's it. No, you are going to move every base. This is the Iranian claims. You have to take every U.S. troop out of the Middle East, period. You're not coming back. You know, they will bomb those things. And again, the other thing about them slowing down their rocket attacks is, number one, yes, they are losing rockets, but you have to understand how these rockets come out. There's a tractor trailer setup that they have on some of it's like a whole unit, okay, like a rocket truck that has like everything's attached, right? Yeah, you destroy that, it's gone, it can't work anymore. But these tractor trailers, the launcher part, basically, they write that off. If they can reuse it again, great. But if not, they unhook the tractor trailer. It's the tractor that you got to stop, right? Because that's what's going to go and bring things back and forth. That's the mule. That's even more valuable than the rockets themselves because one mule truck can bring out every rocket, you know, if it's not destroyed. Just saying. So anyway, yeah, like things are happening fast. Look, when they decide to sink the aircraft carriers, it will probably be Trump's biggest blunder. This idea, look, Trump will just say stuff and then he gets himself in over his head. Yeah, we're going to, you know, like he thinks of it like this. Most likely thinks of it like this. If I say we're going to send the warships in the Strait of Hormuz, the Iranians are going to back down because they're going to be scared. Well, clearly, look, they're not scared. They're still sending, guys are still saying, look, if my speedboat gets taken out, it gets taken out. It's cheap. And the greater good is that your tanker is going to run into one of my sea mines. Your warship is going to run into one of my sea mines. Your submarine is going to run into one of my sea mines. Like, there's a reason why you don't have Virginia-class submarines sinking stuff willy-nilly in the Strait of Hormuz because they're too easily to be detected. And once they do, like, it's going to be, like, you know, these speedboats can drop torpedoes too. Probably I would imagine they'd use deck charges mostly, but in shallow waters, yeah, like even a Seawolf Virginia class, you're definitely not going to get an Ohio class in there. It's too big. It'd be smacking the sea floor, right? Yeah. The aircraft carriers, look, the maintenance it's already 2 weeks in, like it's time for rotation, right? The aircrafts are needing to be rotated. Like in a month's time, almost half the U.S. Air Force is going to be grounded due to maintenance. The F-35s particularly, because those things, for every 1 hour flow, you need about 30 hours of routine maintenance. You're going to see maintenance problems of guys that, like airplanes just falling out of the sky due to shoddy maintenance because, maintenance fatigue. Okay, you ran guys 22 hours to get a destroyer that would normally take 60 days to get it back into service, and you did it in 6 days. Okay, that's impressive. But you can do that like once. Those guys are going to be sleeping, completely exhausted for the next 3 or 4 days. You know what I mean? That you can't maintain those kind of things. There's a reason why the U.S. military, 80% of their force is in the maintenance crew. You know what I mean? Because just to keep this stuff going. You know what I mean? Anyway, we'll see what tomorrow brings. Again, fill up your tanks if you can. Get as much off-grid stuff as you can. Food. Don't wait till everybody's panic buying at the stores. Go now. Yes, I understand everybody's broke. Look, I'm not telling anybody to go into debt, but if you had to go buy $1,000 worth of groceries, as long as you can make the payments on your credit card, maybe it's not a bad investment. You know what I mean? Put $1,000 or $2,000 worth of long-term groceries on your credit card if you have to, right? Again, yeah, make your payments, whatever, but it's money well spent. Give yourself that insurance policy. You need about 2 years worth of food for everybody in your family. The average person in North America eats about 2,000 pounds of food a year, but we could probably survive off of 1,000 pounds each. You know what I mean? Maybe even like a pound a day. Look, I saw this interesting thing about like, again, go look at photos of people from like 1970s, 1980s, right? Particularly, I think pre-1984. Because after 1984, that's when the GMO came in and stuff like that, a lot of food deregulation. But the video was like an AI video, and they were showing renditions of everybody from the 1970s. And just look at all the photos from the 1970s. Every photo I have when I was a child, there's no fat people in it. The obesity rate of the 1970s was something like 10 or 14% of the population. It's now like 30 or 40% of the U.S. population. What happened? Well, many things. Number one, and if we're born in the 1970s and you're a Gen Xer, you know this. Did you snack all day? No. Mom or dad would go and buy a bottle of pop, glass jar of pop, which would be about 1.5 liters to 2 liters. And the whole family would get a cup of that. That bottle would last 2 or 3 days, and you'd only be allowed to have it on the weekends. When the guy said this in the video, I was like, holy shit, how did they know? Right? The other thing is you remember, Mom, I'm hungry. Wait till supper. Supper's a half an hour away. Don't ruin your supper. Okay. You didn't snack all day. Mom, I want to go buy some candy at the store. Not today, Friday. You go to the store, you buy a thing of bubble gum, a bag of chips. That was your treat for the week. Right? You didn't have cases and cases of pop at home. That wasn't normal. Cans of pop. And if you did, you were allowed like one a week. You know what I mean? Why? Because it was expensive. It was a treat. You didn't have it all the time, right? You didn't spend, you might have eaten 3 meals a day, but the plates were 30 to 40% smaller than what they are today. If you ever find old dishes, you'll see what I mean. Like your plates are like this big. Like they were like a 6 to 8 inch plate, maybe 10 inch plate. Now it's 10 to 14 inch plates, right? You didn't realize it, So everything just got bigger. The proportions became less reasonable, right? So going back to that, number one would be a good thing for everybody. But number two, you might not have a choice. Why? Again, the unobtainium crisis of a depression. We're not built for that yet. Some people are not going to be able to handle that well. Anyway, and it's coming. It's just the shortages. Yeah. Anyway, I digress. So anyway, there we go. Be safe. We'll see. Wait and see what happens, what gets confirmed, what gets denied. But it's not looking good. It's not looking good at all. Anyway, there we go. Be safe.